Now, of course, Google Docs is one of the most basic tools you're going to use in Google Workspace. Google Workspace is the latest name in a long list of names. You may remember that all of the tools, Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, Google Forms, was just referred to as Google Docs. So they're documents on the Google account, and then they changed it to several things, including G Suite, and now it is Google Workspace. So when we talk Google Workspace, it's all of it. It's Google Drive, it's Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, Google Forms, Google Classroom, all of those great things. So when you are a Google user, you are a Google Workspace user, you're probably definitely using Google Docs. So if you're new to Google Docs or maybe you've been using it for a long time, you obviously don't know everything, and you can't know everything because they're constantly coming out with new features. So I updated a blog post recently that I had on 10 ways to get started with Google Docs. So I thought I would share that with you and then demonstrate those features. So let's go ahead and share my screen right over here. All right, so I am on my website, alicekeeler.com, and I have a lot of tips on using Google Workspace and other tools specifically for teaching. So these are 10 steps to using Google Docs. And well, let's take a look at our first one. Uh-oh, I have them out of order. What happened? I'm missing numbers 1 through 5. They're just like gone. They're down here somewhere. Or not. This is egg on my face. Right, so I was updating this, and apparently I updated it completely wrong. So now I know what I'm going to do after this stream. Where did number 1 go? Okay, I'm going to have to go look at this. So my number 1 tip then is to go to docs.new. If you want to make a Google Doc, then docs.new is the fastest way to do this. Now the problem is that this is going to be free floating around in your Google Drive. So you're going to want to go to your Google Drive and organize that later. Now, one thing I love about Google Docs is I can actually leave it untitled document. Don't do that, but you can. It saves automatically. There is no save button. And so, but I'm going to change this to demonstrate Google Docs. Okay, so I'm demonstrating Google Docs, and now if I go to Google Drive, drive.google.com, you'll see it's right here in my Google Drive. I click on Recent on the left-hand side, and it says Demonstrate Google Docs. You can see that it is right there in my Google Drive, automatically saves. Hello, this is my Google Doc. You can type on it. What's nice about Google Docs is everything you already know. You already know that it is pretty basic in the sense that you push enter and it goes to the next line, unlike Google Slides, which is an open canvas. And really, I only mention that for when I try to code Google Docs versus Google Slides. Google Docs is a lot easier to code than Google Slides because each sentence or each paragraph goes on its own line, and you can append to the bottom and it knows where it's going. Great, that's not really super great information if you're not coding, but it's a Google Doc. Okay, so the other thing that I like to do is I like to go to Docs, back this up, docs.google.com. Now just docs.google.com is actually Google Drive. So this is your Google Drive filtered for Google Docs. What's nice about that is it does show you the template gallery. So these are different templates, an essay template, a report template, notes template. I'm gonna be honest, I almost never use these, but you can. Now, if you are on a school Google Workspace account, there's like mine says Alice Keeler. Yours is gonna say your school domain name. So my school .org, whatever it is that you your school has. And you can actually submit templates into there to be used school-wide. So maybe if your school has a template for lesson plans or a template for reporting things, they can add their own into the template gallery. So how I got there was docs.google.com. And again, you can see that it's just filtering. I'm going to do it in rows. It's just filtering for your Google Docs in your Google Drive. So either go to Google Drive, and if you click on this 3 lines menu up in the corner, you'll see that you can go to Doc, Sheets, Slides, Vids, Forms, and Drive. So it takes me right there. If I'm back in my Google Doc and I click on the Google Doc logo, click on the logo, as with many websites, when you click on the logo of just about any website, including my own, in that upper left-hand corner, click on the logo, it takes you to the home page. So now you see we're back at the home page. I got there, it's docs.google.com, or you can just click on the logo in any Google Doc. And it's nice because I can start a blank document there, use the templates, or find my recent documents that I have used. Okay, so what other features do we have in a Google Doc? If you don't know this, let's go back to that one. The sidebar collapses in your Google Docs. I love this is that I'm able to navigate more easily, especially if your document gets really long. And I would definitely recommend that you suggest this to your students. But the tip here is you want to use headings. Use headings. Now up in the toolbar, look up here in the toolbar, it says normal text. That is your default. If you have never clicked on this, I would highly recommend that you check this out and use it more often and use heading 1. This makes your documents more accessible for screen readers and also automatically organizes your Google Doc. So now here on the left, when I expand out the sidebar, you can see that it says use headings under tab 1. Now, when I originally wrote this blog post, tabs were not a thing. So I actually added an 11th tip somewhere in here because, of course, I don't know what happened. I got to figure this out. Document tabs is new, that you're able to now make basically a whole notebook with a bunch of pages. Now, there's a lot of features about the document tabs that you wish it had, like being able to merge them all together into one, or being able to print and do something with individual pages. That is not quite there yet. I just wait for it. I'm sure that they're going to make it. And you know me, I am working on a solution that's going to help you to manage your tabs more efficiently. But let's get into that later. Let's first just focus on using the headings. So notice when I push enter, this is, my fingers are not in the right place on the keyboard. This is back to normal text. And then I can go ahead up here to the toolbar and I'm going to choose heading 2. Here is something else. And then I'm going to choose heading 3 and another thing. So you can see over here on the left-hand side, it is populating using those headings and they indent. So this is a favorite thing of mine. If you're not using headings, please go to the toolbar, insert headings. I'm going to Control Enter actually creates a new page. Control Enter. And I'm doing that because not only does it show you the outline, but it is hyperlinked. So you see I've now jumped down to page 3 and I'm going to go back up to page 1 really quickly just by clicking on these headings. Now, when I talk about pages, you'll see when I hover over the scroll bar saying page 1 of 3. If you're not using Pageless, I recommend that you take advantage of that. I love Pageless. It is right here under the Format menu. Switch to Pageless format. Now, I don't have, you can see they're all back together because there is no pages per se. For the most part, we're looking at the documents digitally. We don't need to be constrained by 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. But here's something that's really cool about using Pageless View. And more things, and I have more to say, and more, and here is a heading. I'm going to make that heading 2, and this is stuff to say, and more stuff to say. So what I'm going to notice is if you hover over that heading, do you see this little arrow that shows up? This only works in Pageless View. I'm going to zoom in. If I hover over a heading, this little arrow shows up. Come up to this other heading. There's an arrow. I'm going to zoom back out, Control 0. And what that's going to do is allow me to collapse that heading. So all the stuff that is underneath it. Now what's underneath this H1, this heading 1, is heading 2 and heading 3. So when I collapse this, you notice they all collapse in under there. So it really helps to clean up. Like, it's so distracting. I know for some students, just having so much information can really be overwhelming. So teach your students, use headings. You use headings in the documents you share with them. Teach them they can collapse those headings so they can focus in on one set of directions, one piece. And then I can just bring it right all back So let's not look at that for right now. Let's focus here on this set of directions, this task, and then you can expand out the next one and expand out the next one. Now, since I am in a tab, I am able to see where it says tab 1. If you double click on tab 1, it's going to put the first sentence as the title. I'm going to call this using headings. And I can choose an emoji. I love that feature. So I'm going to name my document tab, and then I'm going to assign it an emoji. Now I can add more tabs, which is just like adding another page in a notebook. And these two pages are separate. If I add a cover page to this second page, ooh, look how pretty that is. You'll notice it does not have that same image on the first tab or the first page. So think about this really as I now have two independent Google Docs within the same document. And I'm going to be able to rename this one also. And notice that there are 3 dots on this tab. So the options that I have is I can duplicate the tab, I can rename it, choose my emoji. I was already able to do those. Copy the link to that specific tab. That's a big deal. And then you can move it up and move it down so you can reorder the pages. But again, really think about each tab as being its own individual Google Doc for now. I am positive we're going to see a lot of great features coming out with the tabs that are going to bring in a lot of functionality. So stay tuned for those. Now, another thing I love to do, type here, I like to do @ When I do the @ symbol, it's going to show me actually a lot of different options of things I can do with this doc. I'm not even seeing all of them because I only pushed @. And so I a lot of times do @today and just drops today's date in there. And I can do @horizontal line, drops a horizontal line in there. And @table, this one I use a lot, @table, and I can just figure out what size table that I want to insert in there. The idea is that you can instead of coming up and trying to do things in the different menus, just go ahead and see if you can just mention it, or you can drop in links to documents and things, smart chips. That makes it easier to interact digitally. When we free ourselves of the constraints that we're probably not going to print this, probably not going to print it, then you have a lot of ways to be interactive with your Google Doc that before you couldn't do because it wasn't there, and you probably, back in the old days, were going to print it. You might still, but with an understanding that a lot of things that we consume are digital, let's add in those interactive elements. Okay, another thing that I want to make sure that I'm doing when I use a Google Doc is inserting comments. It is rude to edit someone else's work. So Google Docs are collaborative. You can be on the same document at the same time. I don't know if you remember, like 10 years ago, you demonstrate Google Docs and have a second person join and just like this, oh my gosh. I think none of us are experiencing this euphoria of someone joining the document. It's just become so ubiquitous. We're all doing it. But as you join a document, be respectful. So there's a couple of ways that you can be respectful of someone else's work. Don't directly edit it. One is to just insert a comment. So you'll notice that when I highlight so a word, a phrase, a sentence, over on the side I can add a comment. It has this add comment icon. This needs punctuation. And Control-Enter will save that comment. So speaking of keyboard shortcuts, that's of course my favorite way to do this is I highlight some text and I can come all the way over to the side to add a comment, but actually I do Control-Alt-M. I'm on a Mac, so it's Command-Option-M, comment. So I put Control-Alt-M, M, comment. Make this a full sentence, Control-Enter. So you can insert in those comments. Now, when you add comments, the next person to come into the document, the first thing you should do if you're collaborating is come right up here to the very top, and you've got this Show All Comments icon. And in this Show All Comments icon, it's going to show me all of the recent comments so I can get up to speed without looking through the whole thing. Now, as teachers, we go through student work and we leave feedback. Instead of the red pen, we're inserting those comments. And we want to teach students to go back to their documents, click on that comments icon so they can see what feedback you have, and then they can resolve those like, okay, I read it, I've responded to it, I've done what I need to do. You can turn off notifications. There's notification settings on those comments if you want to do that. So inserting comments and replying. So the second way to be respectful of someone else's work is instead of just commenting on it, you're like, well, I'm going to rewrite this. Okay, don't just delete someone's work. I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody join a document with me and they change. I'm like, no, I liked it the way I was, and how I write is not how you write. I value your feedback, but give me feedback. Don't just tell me, don't just do it for me. So what I'm looking for is up here in the upper right is this pencil icon to do editing mode. Now you don't see the pencil icon. It's because now it's going to show up persistently. It's because your window is too skinny. It looks like they've adjusted that. But your icons are hidden depending on the width of the window. So if you don't see all of the icons, you're going to see more toolbar icons by clicking on the 3 dots, or you can make your window wider. Now clicking on that pencil icon says I'm in editing mode. So when I'm typing, it's going to override and it's going to edit and change the document. So instead, I'm going to come to suggestion mode. Suggesting, so check this out. I'm going to be like, this is back to normal text. So I've edited it. I have said it was spelled wrong. You didn't have any punctuation. I want to capitalize some more letters, whatever. I did it, but I did it as a suggestion. So you see that it comments it out. It's got a strike through on there. And then what happens is it puts it in as a comment. So when I say comment it out, it's because it does make it a comment. And then the person who actually wrote it can either accept or reject. Like, no, I liked it misspelled. Accept or reject your suggestions. So that is much more polite when you are collaborating on a document, is to use the suggestion mode. Okay, now I'm going to come back here to a pretty picture. Actually, I'm going to add a new tab. Why will this not let me add a new tab? I'm losing my mind. Did my internet kick out? Refresh. There we go. I lost the internet somehow. So my new tab, I'm going to call it voice typing. Voice typing in Google Docs is so good for especially my students who are staring at a blank page, your younger students who don't know how to type, or even your older students who don't know how to type. Ideas are more important than getting things perfect. So let's get your ideas out. So I'm going to I'm going to format tools. They moved it. Used to be under a different menu. Tools, voice typing. Actually use the keyboard shortcut, Control-Shift-S. On a Mac, it's Command-Shift-S. That's how I access it. I never access it from the menu, but you can. So tools and voice typing. I'm going to click on this. I am voice typing this document, period. I am excited about voice typing, exclamation mark, new line. I can use my voice to create highlighting and do different formatting options if you want to learn those advanced features for how to manipulate text using your voice, period. I tend to stick to using the word period and using the word exclamation mark and using the words new line rather than doing all of it. I just want to get my basic ideas down and some basic punctuation, and then I can come back and edit. But you can see what a great job that this is doing of recording what I'm saying. Okay, so if you're not using voice typing, you should. Don't use it when you're in the middle of a meeting, that's obvious. But when students are working and it's okay to make a little bit of noise or they can be talking, allow them to try voice typing, or you voice type your directions and then edit them. You can do it a lot faster just speaking what you want to speak. Or you can do what I do, and I do my voice typing into Google Gemini, and then it formats it and fixes it up and cleans it for me so that it's grammatically correct. I am a math major. That is no excuse, but I really don't know how to use a colon, the 2 dots, correctly. Semicolon, I don't know, I kind of throw it around randomly, and so Gemini helps me to get that just right, so I do love that. You'll notice I don't have Gemini in this document because this particular account it does not have Gemini enabled. I mean, I really hope that your school is paying for you to have the upgrade, to have all of the Gemini integration for you, the teachers, at the very least, because it really does help with a lot of things. And I personally, it's on my other accounts, not this one. I have that Gemini logo. I use it all of the time, especially now in Google Sheets. It's pretty great. Now, if you want to add extra functionality to your Google Doc, that's where the extensions menu comes in. Now, the extensions menu allows you to do add-ons, or you can get add-ons. I'm going to click that. Let's just explore a few of the things. Now, be careful. If it's not a company that you trust, don't install it. It can contain malicious code, so make sure you know who has made it. Like SheetGo is reputable. I don't know about Mail Meteor. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. It's not something that I have a lot of knowledge on. But Atlassian is a reputable company. This one, AI video generator, what company is that? I would be skeptical, so I would skip that. DocuSign's a legitimate company. So just be careful who you're choosing to give your permissions to. Obviously, I think that you should trust me if you type Alice Keeler, all one word. These are the ones, and make sure they say Alice Keeler. Like, I made them. I collect no user data. So, like seating chart slides here, it's already installed. I'm going to go to extensions, seating chart slides. I'm going to show the sidebar. And what I'm trying to do is solve the problem of how do I take it from a Google Doc and put it into Google Slides. This one in particular, I'm going to create Google Slides. This is going to come out terrible. I shouldn't have done this. It creates a text box for that you can drag around for every paragraph. So let's actually change this. I'm going to do this on a new tab. Alice, Nancy, Paul, Mike, Larry. It's going to take every paragraph and put it into a little tiny text box, which is great if you want to do like refrigerator magnets or something. And now I can make seating charts with the student names because Google Slides allows me to move these around. You can also, it's Google Slides, you can edit them, do whatever you want. So hopefully that is helpful. Okay, so additional functionality, that's just one. I got a bunch, I just really quickly chose one. And there's other companies who make great add-ons, but just make sure that you check them out, you know who they are. Just be careful out there. As with anything that you do digitally, whenever you give your information, interact on the internet, double check that you know who you're giving your information to. I never collect data, friends. I never do. My add-ons are totally safe for you to use. Okay, now let's see what I missed, even though these are all out of order. Oh, most important, make sure you understand the share button. Let's zoom in on this. So the share button here is locked. So by default, it is private unless I create this document inside a folder and that folder has permissions where it's shared with somebody or everybody, then the document would inherit the permissions of the folder. But by default, it is private. So I'm going to click on that. You can enter in the email addresses of people you want to share with. I'm going to share with the Alice Keeler at gmail.com. That's not a real email address. Don't bother emailing me there. It's not really me. Now, here's something that, pay attention. When you share, it's going to, by default, notify them. Now, if the person's sitting right next to you, maybe they don't want the notification. It's just, or your students, I try to teach my students, like, I already know. So uncheck box the notify them, so it's shared with them. And when they go to their Google Drive over here on the shared with me, you're going to see the documents that people shared with you. Do know that this is not a folder. It is a filter. So you don't have any control over this filter of documents that are shared with you, but that is the place to go. Someone shares a Google Doc with you, go to the filter shared with me, and you can find that. So you can notify them, send a message, or disable that and copy the link to the document. Now, by default, it's giving them editor access when you share with them directly. So you can change them to viewer or commenter. Remember when I just showed you when you have commenting suggestion mode, then they can only interact in that polite way. They cannot overtake your document. Now, you can also expire when they have access. You can give them access for like a day, and then after that, done. They can't edit it anymore. So I'm sure you can think of great ways that you'd want to do that with your students. Like, put some feedback on this, and then we're done. Okay, one other thing I want to show you in here while I'm in here is this settings cog. So the settings cog up here, if you click on it, you probably have seen it and never thought about it. When you click on it, it gives you the options to disallow people to share your document. So if you have something you don't want shared outside of the group you're sharing it with, you can turn off that access. And you can also prevent people from downloading or printing or copying the document. Now, you can't stop them from highlighting, Control-C, copy, and pasting into a new document. Can't do that. But you can prevent them from copying the whole thing. And so that is in that little settings cog to give you a little bit more control over your document. And you'll notice now that I've shared this with somebody, the icon up here changes and it shows that it's shared with someone. It's got the little people icons on there, but no link. So I'm going to go back and click on share one more time, and you'll see that I have general access, and I'm going to change it from restricted to anyone with the link. This middle option is anyone at your school who has the same domain, that their email ends in that same bit that yours ends in. Share with anyone the link, and then what can they do? By default, it's view. You can change it to comment or edit. So if you want to just give generic editing rights, I do this sometimes. I just share it out on Twitter. I'm like, anyone can edit. Let's collaborate. We'll crowdsource this. Especially when I do that, I come up to the cog and I disallow editors being able to share permissions. This is a funny little quirk. That if somebody else's school account doesn't allow for sharing outside of the domain and they edit it, sometimes it'll kind of hijack your document and restrict it to their domain when they go in and edit it. So this stops that from happening, and then you can choose if you want to stop them from downloading, copying, or printing your document, and hit done. Okay, so let's see what else I got on here. It's all out of order. Leave comments, we did that one. Suggestion mode, we did that one. We used headings. We did the document outline. Oh, how did I forget version history? It's the most important. File, version history, name the current version. I do this a lot because it's going to save. You don't need to make copies of the document. It's going to save versions automatically for you, but they're saved by the date. And especially if you want to get back to a specific spot, before I collaborate with anybody, I name the current version. When I go over and I help a student, I go to the version history and I name the current version. Before Keeler helped me, or even if I do that with adults, I will, before I help them, before I mess it up, before I do anything to their document, we're going to name that current version. So we're going to name this before we add more stuff, whatever you want to call it, save. I also do this where I name it template before I collaborate with students so that I can roll it back to the template so that next year I can reuse the same document without making copies. Now you can find that version history in the file menu, and you can see the version history, and it's going to list those edits over here on the side. Be sure to expand out these little collapse arrows because they are the micro edits. So you see 1102, 1103, 1103, 1105. Those are each of those edits, but you can get there faster. So I'm in the habit that I click here on this clock icon in the upper right, and if you just double click, you can actually rename any of the versions. You only have a limited number of names. Like, you can only name them so many times. So once you've done that, and it's like, hey, you've run out of names, don't worry about it until you run out. Then you'll have to go back and delete some of the other named versions that you have, but it's not something that comes up too often, and it's pretty easy to solve. So you have all versions and you have named versions. So you see that we now just have these two in the list versus all the ones that are automatically created every time I make some sort of an edit or anyone makes an edit on it. And you also have the option, if you click the three dots, you can make a copy of an old version. So this is what I do with my syllabus. I use the same Google Doc for years, like 10 years. I have the same Google Doc. And then every semester, I just edit the syllabus. And I keep using the same one. That way my links on my website, my links in my email, anything I've ever shared, always the same. Never have to ever have to update them. But once in a while, somebody wants whatever my syllabus was, especially when I teach college classes. So 3 years from now, they're entering a master's program and they need the syllabus from 3 years ago so they can show what we went over 3 years ago. So that's fine. I just go in and I make a copy of the version from 3 years ago and I share it with them. And I just keep using the exact same Google Doc forever, and I just keep editing it, but naming my versions. So version history is really important because there is no save button. You don't have to make copies. It automatically makes copies for you. That is what version history is. Okay, what else am I missing? We did the document tabs. Oh boy. We left comments. We did that. I don't know how I messed this up. I'm going to fix it. Okay, it somehow repeated. Something is wacky. I did not do this. I think my website has lost its mind and is having a glitch because how is it copied 5,000 times? We shared the document. Okay, it is copied. I didn't do that. There is some sort of a glitch on my website right now, so I'm gonna have to figure out what is going on with that, but let's not worry about it. Use Google Docs, kind of experiment, use the @ symbol to see what you can insert. Another time we'll go over a list of my favorite things to @. Obviously @today, or I'll do @yesterday and @tomorrow because I don't know what date it is ever. Even I've been this, I'm writing a check on my birthday and I'm like, what's today's date? And they're like October 6th. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yep. I knew that. Never know the date. So just doing @today, super helpful. @mention people, @horizontal line, @table, a lot faster and easier to use your Google Docs. So enjoy.